So much of what we do now is simply for the love of hatred. My hope for you is gone. I'm not just sad for you, I grieve for you. We live in a world where tyranny is celebrated as the answer to tyranny, and corruption is lovingly embraced as the answer to corruption. That's a problem I can't solve. It can only solve itself through self-destruction. And for the longest time, my instinct was to react with fervent devotion to the truth. That doesn't work anymore. I was brought up to believe that the truth always wins in the end. And people made claims, and sometimes those claims surprised me. So I researched them, and in many cases, I found out that those claims were false. I'd then announce to the world that this is false. But does that really matter anymore? The truth is, the truth lost. Now, when I announce falsehood, the response is very disconcerting. The liars and the people being lied to have ceased to be predator and prey. Now, they are allies. They embrace the lie as truth itself, even if they know it's false, because they see it as a means to an end. They simply don't care about the truth anymore. All that seems to matter to them is that their side wins. Their side can do no wrong, and the other side can do no right. Nothing else matters. They don't understand that the sides themselves are contrivances. In our current world, the truth doesn't matter. Duty and honor doesn't matter. Material reality itself doesn't matter. All that matters now is that your enemies are humiliated and defeated. There is no price too high to achieve that goal. So at this time, sacrificing the truth seems like a small price to pay, because nobody seems to understand how high the interest will make that bill when the due date finally arrives. And nobody seems to understand that in a world where the truth is sacrificed for victory, defeating your enemies means defeating yourself too. It's not even a Pyrrhic victory. It's mutually assured destruction. A nuclear explosion is devastating in an obvious way. You can feel the heat, see the destruction, and hear the blast. Everything about it announces itself to all your senses as an undeniable danger. Most people don't know that we created something even more dangerous. We automated lying, a technological cancer more destructive than a nuclear bomb. But few people know it because it's quiet and invisible. It doesn't announce itself. It doesn't blast away buildings and leave a giant angry cloud. Its effects aren't immediate. It isn't obvious. It quietly creeps into our brains and stays there, spreading and reinforcing itself. Without even knowing it, suddenly we're living in an alternate reality, crafted by those who have only their best interests in mind. We become their puppets, and we don't even know it. Our decisions become an extension of their decisions. Everything we do is for their benefit. Our thoughts are handed to us in quips, memes, and talking points. Even as we express them, we think they're ours, that we're unique, even as we step off the social media assembly line. We become puppets, and our strings are made of dopamine. The transition is seamless. and undetectable. I tried. I really did. The things I want to say to you right now have gone very differently than I thought they would. So many people are being misled right now about their politics, about who they think their enemies are, about their politics telling them who their enemies are. So it's a mixture of both knowingly perpetuating lies and accepting the lies as truth. I spent a lot of time gathering data. Oh, look! What this very influential politician is saying is a pretty damning lie, and I can prove it. Oh, look! This very popular influencer is spreading a completely debunked narrative about this particular thing, and I can prove it. Oh, look! This billionaire businessman is doing the exact same corrupt things 1,000 times worse than what he's accusing others of doing. I could debunk it all. And as I do so, even if everyone who heard my voice successfully changed their mind, which would never happen, each lie would immediately be replaced by 1,000 other lies, all fervently believed. That's our world now. As I was collecting all this data to do my work of exposing the lies, I had an epiphany, as if I stepped outside of myself and saw myself as a madman desperately trying to bail out the Titanic with a shot glass. In a way, that put me neck deep in the very delusion I wanted to fight against. What's the point? The hypocrites know they're hypocrites. The liars know they're lying. And the people being lied to don't care because they think the lies are being told for their benefit. I stood back and breathed it all in. 20 or 25 years ago, we used to joke with each other about outlandish claims. We'd sarcastically ask, "Where'd you hear that, the internet?" Or announce, "It's true because I heard it on the internet." And it was understood as a joke because it was so obvious that you couldn't just trust any post on the internet. We all knew that. Back then, the internet was mostly a place for the tech-savvy. It was a world of nerds, dorks, and geeks who, for all their faults, were intelligent enough to foster a healthy dose of incredulity when it came to the internet. But all these years later, as I stood outside myself, watching myself diligently collect data, a grim realization struck me. This isn't the internet anymore. This is social media now. This isn't about data anymore. No amount of data is going to fix this. It's about conditioning and social engineering now. We took a very dark turn. If you're watching this, it's likely you're directly involved with social media. And if so, then your mind, your perceptions, and your beliefs have all been affected by social engineering. And even if you're not online, the world around you is, and it all affects you. So there is no unplugging. There is no true sanctuary. I'm not sure any of us realize the extent to which our heads have been messed with, but make no mistake, your head has been messed with. I witnessed a popular influencer base his political reality on the substance of a single unsourced tweet. Bizarrely, he was around during those early internet days. He, of all people, should have known better, but he didn't. Or maybe he did know better, but knew that others wouldn't. So I collected all the data showing how that tweet was wrong. But what was I doing? Why was I doing this? Was it all just a waste of my limited time? The tweet was an accusation against his political opponents, so that's all he needed to justify his hatred and desire for them to face misery. The tweet was just a means to an end, that end being a justification to dehumanize those he hated so that he could feel good about hating them. The tweet gave himself permission to indulge in the love of hatred. If that tweet had never been written, there still would have been a million more posts having the same effect that day. So much of what we do now is simply for the love of hatred. So, what does that mean for someone like me, someone passionate about the truth? My urge to debunk lies and misconceptions is insatiable. I hate it when people believe falsehoods. It keeps me up at night. What does a person like myself do when the very medium in which I exist, social media, is completely dominated and controlled by those who have a vested interest in hiding the truth and spreading falsehoods? What does a person like myself do when the system foists lies upon you, and if you dare to click on one, the algorithms bury you in even more lies? What does a person like myself do when the lies are easy, profitable, and satisfying, while the truth is difficult, impoverished, and depressing? It's like holding a sword by the blade and trying to slay a million dragons by frantically hitting them with the pommel. You do no damage to them and draw only your own blood. Everyone is credulous about all the things they should be skeptical of, and skeptical of all the things that are true. It's maddening. But who am I to tell them that they're wrong? Once I do that, I am perceived as the enemy. In reality, it's precisely the opposite. I'm trying to help. But as I said, reality doesn't matter anymore. People wrap up their identities with these lies, so an attack on the lies feels like an attack on them, which makes you their enemy. So if the very truth itself is the enemy, then the lies will win, exactly as they have been winning. That's because the truth cannot compete with the catharsis of humiliating and dominating one's enemies, which is all that matters now. That's why, even if they know it's a lie, they'll embrace it anyway. They can justify any transgression by accusing you of the same transgression, regardless of whether you're guilty or not. That gives them permission to indulge in vengeance using whatever tactics they formerly denounced, so that they can pretend it's poetic justice rather than hypocrisy, so that they can pretend to have values. Now, you don't have to fix the problem to find a solution. All you have to do is trick people into accepting what you want them to accept. Point at those people and declare that they are your enemy. Accept that all the problems you face are because of them. That is how you destroy your enemies now. You condition people into believing that their neighbors, friends, and even their family are their enemies now. It's the tactic of dividing and conquering. United we stand, divided we fall. It's a tactic as old as civilization itself, and we keep falling for it. So what hope do I have of stopping it now? If we're busy fighting each other, then we're not rising up against our masters. That's the whole point. That is the current state of affairs. And it's a state of affairs that was deliberately arranged by our masters. As long as we keep believing that it's left versus right, then we'll never understand that it's actually up versus down. That's the point. Listen to this Fox News host, Jesse Waters, proudly boast about the tactics that are being used to destroy the truth. Forget his left versus right framing. That's just WWE noise used to divide us. Instead, pay attention to the tactics he highlights.
Dana, we are waging a 21st century information warfare campaign against the left, and they are using tactics from the 1990s. They are holding tiny press conferences, tiny little rallies. They're screaming into the ether on MSNBC. This is what you call top-down command and control. You get your talking points from a newspaper, and you put it on the broadcast network, and then it disappears. What you're seeing on the right is asymmetrical. It's like grassroots guerrilla warfare. Someone says something on social media, Musk retweets it, Rogan podcasts it, Fox broadcasts it, and by the time it reaches everybody, millions of people have seen it. It's free money. And we're actually talking about expressing information. They are suppressing information.
That's how you weaponize lying. He's bragging about a message getting out to millions of people before it can be vetted. That's how the truth dies. That's where the famous saying comes from: a lie can travel halfway around the world while the truth is putting on its shoes. You're not supposed to brag about using such tactics, but he's right. If you have no principles, no devotion to the truth, then you will have a rhetoric-spreading advantage. If you can move your chess pieces however you want, then you can beat even the best chess players. If the new rules are no rules, then everybody will lose. That's why it's mutually assured destruction. In the grand scheme of things, I'm a nobody. While the nuke is going off and its blast deafens you, I might as well be whispering. And in the end, can I even trust myself? No, not really. What if I'm merely debunking lies with more lies? How can I possibly be the arbiter of truth when I too am neck deep in this cesspool? Just another voice in the cacophony. I guess in the end, that's the real reason I decided to throw away all my research and say this instead. I don't know the extent to which I've been manipulated, but I do know that I've learned many of their tricks well enough to spot them when I see them. That alone gives me confidence in my beliefs. And I do know that I see their tricks saturating social media, and I see people believing them. If they even are people, because these days it's just as likely to be a chatbot in a sea of chatbots, whose mere existence is to provide the illusion of popular opinion, as people are easily swayed by popular opinion. When I was growing up, the fear was that the AIs were going to attack us physically, but as it turned out, they're attacking us psychologically, at the behest of our fellow human beings. Yes, the dystopian future turned out to be real, but that future, our present, turned out to be sinister in a more subtle way, a more subversive way. The machines didn't need to conquer us to plug us into the matrix. We willingly plugged in ourselves. The battlefield didn't turn out to be wastelands carpeted with skulls and illuminated by lasers. The battlefields now exist within our own minds, quiet and invisible. The most sinister subversion of all is that the algorithms make us the architects of our own propaganda, so that the line between us and our masters becomes blurred, Soon, we don't even realize that we're no longer expressing our own thoughts. The meat in our heads is like computer code now. If this, then that. Say the words we want you to say. Type the keys we want you to type. If someone says this thing, then respond to them this way. How will you know? Don't worry, we'll tell you. And you'll obediently repeat it, all the while wholeheartedly believing that you're thinking for yourself and doing your own research. The old paradigms are over. You're a techno slave now. So what do we do? Well, as I said, my hope for you is gone. I don't think there's anything we can do. At this late stage, the inevitable self-destruction and renewal of the cycle is the only thing that will bring about change. So the only question that really matters now is, who do you want to be in the end? Do you want to stand for what's right, even as everything falls apart? Do you want to join in the dark pleasures of cruelty with the rest of the scoundrels? Or do you want to just lie down and give up? As I began speaking to you, I thought I wanted to give up. But as I presented myself with those three questions, I found myself resisting. If everything we do is etched into eternity, then even what we do in the face of defeat matters. So I don't know what you're going to do, but I'll tell you what I'm going to do. Even if there is no hope, even if the nuke goes off and I see the fire coming for me, I'm going to stand for what's right.